welcome all your beautiful faces. It's so nice to see you. Some of you are new and others have been with us all along this journey of a year honoring Rabbi Sachs's memory and his teachings. Tonight, I want to first thank our office staff. Françoise, who's one of the pillars of our synagogue, and she's with us tonight. She's started the video, and I want to thank her from the bottom of my heart because she's been with us all along, and without the office staff, we couldn't do anything. Viola, who does a beautiful job editing the recordings, and of course, the main ones are all of you who join us, and it's been a wonderful journey. Tonight is no different. Tonight is, I will call it the cherry on top. We are concluding with a beautiful couple of panelists, each of whom have their own paths and their own journey responding to the call of responsibility. We have Arlene Abitan, who is my machatena. Our kids are married. We have a beautiful granddaughter from that union. We have Madar-Abitan, whom Arlene invited, and how brilliant of her to do so. She thought of Alice because Alice herself, well, she's from the Shar HaShamayim. She has a group of people who are following this course, and she moderates it. She leads the group. She has a master's in Jewish studies, and we'll speak about her bio a bit later. It's a beautiful bio. And first now, for those who just signed on, I want to ask our wonderful Françoise to play the video by Rabbi Sachs once again. And hopefully by then Edmond will be with us. There he is. Hi, Edmond. And he will offer us some wisdom. So Edmond is going to be our substitute rabbi tonight. He has so much knowledge. You can ask him anything and he'll just go off the top of his head and he'll fill you with some new nuggets. So we're talking about responsibility tonight, and it's what Rabbi Sachs says Judaism is the call to responsibility. And he captions that as being the Jewish future. So Françoise, it's on to you, please. Thank you.
For every Jew today, there are roughly 155 Christians and 120 Muslims. More than 3,000 years later, the words of Moses in Deuteronomy remain true. He said, "The Lord didn't set his affection on you and choose you because you were more numerous than other peoples, for you were the fewest of peoples." We were then, and we are now. So why did God choose this tiny people for so great a task? To be his witnesses in the world, the people who fought against the idols of the age in every age, the carriers of his message to humanity. Why are we so few? Why this dissonance between the greatness of the task and the smallness of the people charged with carrying it out? There's a strange passage in the Torah. In Exodus chapter 30, verse 12, it says, "When you take a census of the Israelites to count them, each one must pay the Lord a ransom for his life at the time he is counted. Then no mishap, no negef will come on them when you number them." The implication is unmistakable. It's dangerous to count Jews. Centuries later, King David ignored the warning and disaster struck the nation. So why is it dangerous to count Jews? Nations take censuses on the assumption that there's strength in numbers. The larger the people, the stronger it is. And that is why it's dangerous to count Jews. If Jews ever believed that their strength lay in numbers, we would give way, God forbid, to despair. In Israel, there were always a minor power surrounded by great empires. In the diaspora everywhere, they were a minority. Where then did Jewish strength lie, if not in numbers? The Torah gives an answer of surpassing beauty. God tells Moses, don't count Jews. Ask them to give and then count the contributions. In terms of numbers, we're small. But in terms of our contributions, we are vast. In almost every age, Jews have given something special to the world. The Torah, the literature of the prophets, the poetry of the Psalms, the rabbinic wisdom of Mishnah, Midrash and Talmud, the vast medieval library of commentaries and codes, philosophy and mysticism. Then, as the doors of Western society opened, Jews made their mark in one field after another, in business, industry, the arts and sciences, cinema, the media, medicine, law, and almost every field of academic life. They revolutionized thought in physics, economics, sociology, anthropology, and psychology. Jews have won Nobel Prizes, out of all proportion to our numbers. The simplest explanation is that to be a Jew is to be asked to give, to contribute, to make a difference, to help in the monumental task that has engaged Jews since the dawn of our history, to make the world a home for the divine presence, a place of justice, compassion, human dignity, and the sanctity of life. Though our ancestors cherished their relationship with God, they never saw it as a privilege. They knew it was a responsibility. God asked great things of the Jewish people, and in so doing, made them great. When it comes to making a contribution, numbers don't count. What matters is commitment, passion, dedication to a cause. Precisely because we are so small as a people, every one of us counts. We each make a difference to the fate of Judaism and the Jewish people. Zechariah said it best, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Almighty Lord. Physical strength needs numbers. The larger the nation, the more powerful it is. But when it comes to spiritual strength, you need not numbers, but a sense of responsibility. You need a people, each of whom knows that he or she must contribute something to the Jewish and to the human story. The Jewish question is not, what can the world give me? It's, what can I give to the world? Judaism is God's call to responsibility.
Wow, even though he's gone, he's left us. Rabbi Sachs's words are there to stay, and they will mean the same thing in 100 years or 500 years from now. I'd like to ask Edmond to share a few words with us. Edmond, you are our substitute rabbi tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Sondra. I'm sorry if I was late. It's because I just finished an executive committee meeting when you called. So I was having a little bite when you called, and I'm here.
Well, thank you for joining.
Okay. And this week's parasha God asked Adam and Eve, where are you? Ayeka. Because they felt on their responsibility to listen to the commandment not to touch to a particular tree or that fruit, because something will happen to them. But they fell. They fell, and we know the rest. They were thrown out from the Gan Eden. Let's move to their children, Cain and Abel. A tragic story. The two brothers hated each other by jealousy. Cain, we know, killed Abel. Interestingly enough, if you go back to the essence of the name of Cain and the essence of the name of Abel, it means something also. As you know, in Jewish tradition, each name, each root of the name has a particular meaning. Yeah. Cain means to buy, to purchase. And when Cain was born, his mother, Eve said, I purchased this boy from Hashem. Kaniti Beni min Hashem. I purchased him. Well,
excuse me, or I acquired.
Acquired, yeah. And when you look at Havel, what does that mean, Havel? Havel means meaningless, nothing. Havel, Havalim, like what we say in Ecclesiastes, means something that's not very important. Now, what happened here when we speak about responsibility? Cain gave a donation to Hashem. Okay, it was an offering that he gave from his field, wheat, barley, whatever he had, and it was rejected. Havel gave also a donation, a sacrifice from his flock, and it was accepted. So what happened when you have two brothers that come, let's say, to parents, one of them is accepted and the other one is refused? When in terms of responsibility, what do you create? You create jealousy. You create hatred. So the Midrashim try to find how come Hashem refused the offering of Cain and accepted the one of Havel. Didn't Hashem knew that by doing so, something going to happen? All the Midrashim were analyzing this situation, and they want in all kind of scenarios. Scenario number one, when the parents were, how come the parents weren't there to teach responsibilities to their children to respect each other? Scenario two, why Cain decided just like that to kill his brother? He didn't know that murdering half of the humanity, because there were only both of them, will create havoc. Okay, so here also a responsibility was attached to that. Third scenario, the Midrashim, our sages didn't want to go into it. Meaning, is it Hashem's fault if Cain killed his brother Havel? And then ask him, where are you, Cain? So he says, why? Where is your brother? He said, am I my brother's keeper? He also felt responsibility. my brother's keeper. We know that in Judaism, we are all our brothers and sisters keeper. It's very important. We know the rest. We know the rest, that our sages stopped there, didn't want to investigate any longer or ask whose fault it is. But we have to remember one thing, is the sentence that we heard from Hashem from the beginning, where are you? And this interpellation is calling us always. This question is addressed to each one of us all time, everywhere. Where are you? What are you doing for your community? What are you doing for your brothers, your sisters, the foreigners, okay? Are you doing enough for Klal Israel to better the life around you? And this is the question that we always have to confront and find an answer to it. And that's because the main responsibility is, where are you? I am here, not I don't know where I am. I am here and I'm ready to help.
Well, I want to thank you so much. It's when I first told you that we have a member of our congregation, it happens to be Arlene Abitan, who has been awarded a big honor. The first thing you said, the first word you used was commitment. So without further ado, I'm going to read Arlene's bio, and I'm just warning you all, it's all about commitment. So here we go. Arlene got her first taste of community work at the then Sadie Bronfman Center, now called the Siegel Center. There, she chaired the School of Fine Arts for 3 years. She then crossed Côte St. Catherine Street over to the Fédération CJA, where, as she likes to say, she understood the significance of community building. She learned a tremendous amount walking in the shadows of wonderful, intelligent women, some of whom have left an indelible imprint on her. At the Federation CJA, Arlene co-chaired multiple events and projects for women's philanthropy. She promoted dialogue and fostered flourishing relationships between Sepharad and Ashkenaz women, taking lead roles in a communauté sans frontières, as she likes to say, in franglais. Mm-hmm. She was the 2001 Sepharad campaign co-chair, taking her role to another level in 2014 as Federation's general campaign co-chair. In between, Arlene created and chaired in 2012 the annual fundraiser for Ometz, an event entitled A Chance to Shine. She was a member of the board of Montreal's Holocaust Memorial Center. Mrs. Abitan co-chaired in 2004 and 2005 a 2-year mezuzah campaign for the Siegel Pavilion of the Jewish General Hospital. Arlene has established a lasting relationship between MADA and Federation CJA and sat on the board of directors at MADA. In 2007, she was honoree of the ICRF Israel Cancer Research Center as a Woman of Action, as it was called. She chaired 2 galas for Migdal Or, Israel's largest NGO, home to thousands of children. It was the brainchild of Rabbi Grossman. Presently, Arlene's deepest commitment is towards CMDA, Canadian Magen David Adom, as a member of its board and executive. She holds the position of second vice president. She chaired its 2019 gala and will chair the upcoming one on May 22 of 2022, God willing. Here at the Spanish and Portuguese Synagogue, Arlene has co-chaired our 2018 gala to mark 250 years of our congregation. She sits on the board and the executive. This past June 2021, Arlene contributed to the S&P annual giving campaign. She will soon receive the Kipnis Wilson Friedland Award, designated for women who have set a high standard for philanthropy and volunteerism in the Jewish communities of Canada within the North American sphere of Jewish life. In January 2022, our Arlene will receive this prestigious award at the Lion of Judah Conference in Phoenix, Arizona. Married to Henri-Abitan, they have 3 wonderful children and a daughter and son-in-laws and 7 grandchildren. She cherishes moments she brings her family together over the Shabbat table. I know, I was there. And planning little surprises for her grandchildren. She's a feminist and believes in advancing women's causes. She enjoys walks in nature and by the water, loves to listen to music, and says, I cannot imagine a world without it. Arlene loves to paint when she can. She does beautiful work, but hopes one day to make of it a priority. But as a woman of responsibility, is always her kids and grandkids, and ask me, I know. She celebrates the spiritual dimension of life in all its depth and beauty. In her words, well, I paraphrased it, what really lifts me up is the joy of learning from people whose life experience is a result of coming from different walks of life. So when she and her husband and her beautiful family walked into my life, all I saw was uplifting. And this woman has brought a lot of light into my life. And heaven knows I needed it. And she sensed it without being told a clue, anything. She just pierces right through every human being. And as she says, that is her main interest in life. So Arlene, please take the floor.
Wow, thank you very much, Sandra. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can. You sound great.
That was a very nice introduction, and I thank you for it. So good evening and welcome to everyone. I'm so pleased to have been invited by you, Sandra, who with Rabbi Pinto, Françoise, and Viola put this program together. I'm really happy to see so many of you tonight. My family, my friends, all present this evening, and I thank you for being here. Sandra, again, thank you for those countless hours you've invested yourself in to put this series together. You had a vision, you did it. And as I was talking to Alice today, we said, oh, our turn will come in September. We have a long way to go. But all this time you've been working. And I'm so proud you did this for our synagogue, of which my family and I are members of. So I am very proud and happy to share this platform with my longtime friend, Alice, Madar-Abitan, who will deliver the biblical approach to the subject tonight, responsibility. Alice is the perfect example. I did not do any studies, and when asked to speak about this, I said I could only speak about my personal experience with responsibility, how I got to take responsibility, but Alice will be more in the how should I say, the context of what a synagogue expects to hear. But I hope you'll like my story. So my presentation will define the circumstances that led me to act with responsibility when I discovered community work. And now I was faced to take certain decisions as I evolved. I will also discuss how I am making it my responsibility to leave my children and my grandchildren and the future generations, hopefully, a significant repercussion of the commitment to the community I love and to Israel. I hope I do it with the hope that they will carry on for the better of our people and our society. I just want to say that this exercise will have permitted me to do self-introspection and to revisit some special moments that will have marked me, and to go back over time. And as you said it, Sandra, I didn't think I did so much, but I guess I did. And I did it not thinking, I just kept on going. I really value this opportunity that was given to me because self-expression is a great tool to get even more acquainted with yourself. So here's my story. At the age of 11, I internalized an enlightening experience that awakened me to my first notion of responsibility. Yes, of course, I had responsibility. My parents were working in Canada, and I had 3 younger brothers, and I had to take on a lot of responsibility. But something before that happened. Just as we got to Montreal, we had just immigrated from Paris. It was our first Jewish holiday in a foreign land called Canada. And it was the eve of Rosh Hashanah, September 1964. A young man knocked at our door and delivered a box of all sorts of goodies and sweets. The sender was identified as JIAS, Jewish Immigrant Services, Jewish Immigrant Aid Services,
yes.
which translates today as Agency Ometz. Ometz is one of the agencies of Federation CJA. My family was so happy and excited to receive this box. I remember my parents feeling so thankful and fortunate. Some caring individuals had had a vision to place a system in place for us, fellow Jews. Someone had concern for us, for our integration. This thoughtful gesture provided our family the support and warmth my parents needed so much. Having left our family back in Paris, we felt like we had extended family at this moment. Remember what it means to be Jewish. Here is a story not to forget, my father said to us. This childhood episode definitely left an imprint and awakened the feeling that still resides in me. But I understood really well the resonance of it in later years. I became the chair of Initiative France, whose mission is to integrate immigrant Francophone Jews in our community. So my parents, Simone and Roger Madar, of blessed memory, were my role models. They showed me love in its many different aspects, and they showed me how to act with responsibility. My father, who had to reinvent himself financially, still found the time to take part in the new Jewish community to us. At the time of his death, I discovered, searching his paper, a reward given to him for being a canvasser to l'Appel Juif Unifié, Fédération CJA's annual campaign. I must admit that I was pretty much impressed. It was quite generous of him to give of his time to collect money for the needy ones when he had so many priorities, assuming our own well-being. Our first exposure to the responsibility someone had taken for us led my father and myself to give back. So this is what I gather. Wherever there's a human being, there's an opportunity for kindness. And no act of kindness, no matter how small, is never wasted and should never be underestimated. As well, both my 2 grandparents during their lifetime had to act with responsibility and take moral action. Each one of them, in his own context, performed good deeds with the goal of improving a condition they held dear in the periods they lived in. They understood moral purpose. When I think back of their past, I can reflect on their loyalty, whether it was to society or community. So here's what I was told. My paternal grandfather, Zerach Madar, this is my Tunisian heritage, received a medal called La Médaille commémorative de la guerre 1935-1945 in the city of Tunis in Tunisia, because he was amongst the défense passive. So here's the picture. So this is his medal that the French government, that the government of Tunisia gave him. And I'll tell you why he was given this medal. This medal was given to citizens that acted voluntarily to ensure civil protection and security during the war. This squad will retaliate the population in case of bombardment, participated in the construction of underground shelters, alerted the population of possible danger by radio and poster, and gave direction in case of chemical attack. Do we have the picture of my grandfather? Here he is. This was my grandfather on my paternal side. And by the way, my grandfather really was the one who gave us a lot of love for Israel, even though he had never been in Israel. But I recall him speaking about Israel with so much passion and so much affection. So that is my paternal grandfather. Now we'll talk about my maternal grandfather, who also influenced me. My maternal grandfather, let me just see something, 2 minutes. Okay. Yeah, back to my maternal grandfather, Haïm Abessera, was the vice president of the Jewish community in Meknes in 1925. I never met him, but I inherited wonderful documents showing how he, in his own time, he acted for the benefit of his community. He wrote a letter to the president of the Alliance Israélite Universelle in Paris. And in his letter, he asked the French director at the Franco-Israelite School of Meknes that the school was getting too much French over Hebrew subjects. You could see the letter. It's right here. It's written in Hebrew and translated in perfect French. And he states that in Meknes, which one of the most religious cities of Morocco, I mean, it was pretty daring of him, and he writes the Alliance Israélite in France, and he says to them, sorry, this is wonderful to be under the French protectorate, but we need to have just as much, if not more, Jewish studies, because it is very important for our own students to know their culture. So my grandfather, I have to say, operated responsibly for the future of his students. We all know that Jews repeatedly in the course of history had to fend for their rights. And I am proud to know that he was amongst one of them. So I can say here that my grandparents understood moral purpose. Each one in his own context performed good deeds with the goal of improving a condition they held dear in the periods they lived in. And when I think back of their past, I reflect on their loyalty, whether it was to a society, to this society they lived in, or to community. So all the above stories I love to recount and recall and tell my family and friends. All these stories probably influenced what translated into my community work later on. To be responsible is the art of giving. It is the courage to act, to want to make a difference. Like my father and my grandparents honorably did. It is almost a fanatical love of justice, a call to duty and fairness. It is to know right from wrong. It is the possession of moral conscience and moral courage. It is living by a code of ethics. Emotional intelligence guides your heart, then your mind takes command. So Golda Meir said, to be or not to be is not a question of compromise. Either you be or you don't be. Whether women are better than men, they are no worse. Women need a voice at the table. Our time on earth is a gift. The rent we pay for that gift is how we give back to make the world a better place. Responsibility, I gather, is some state of mind you have been programmed to, or something you took on as a result of life's events. As the woman I am, I took my community work very seriously, very seriously. I got involved over the last 28 years in many, many organizations of the community and for Israel. taking on leadership roles, bringing more attention to a cause, creating projects, raising funds, sensitizing people to necessities that will better our people here and abroad. I learned that each time we stand up for an ideal or act to improve the lot of others or strike against injustice, we send forth a ripple of hope. I quickly understood also that any action you take has an impact and creates a cumulative effect. A house is built with many elements, from smallest to biggest, but each one is necessary and complements the other. He who moves a mountain begins by carrying small stones. So in my first introduction to community, I quickly realized that I had to get out of my comfort zone. I prepared myself to assume my sense of responsibility. I was so fortunate to be a part of a bunch of people who were alike in some way, who felt some sense of belonging and who felt a philanthropic responsibility. To feel dependable, keep promises, and honor commitments was and remains my ultimate goal. Throughout my involvement in community work, there were instances where I had to take some decisions that would require for me to rebound responsibly. Here's another story. During 2011, 2012, I created an event called the Chance to Shine for Agence au Maître. In French, it's called Dessine-moi une étoile. In September 2011, just as I started taking on this gala planning, my mom was diagnosed with a fatal illness. As I was working on organizing this fundraiser, that was a first for OMETS, my mom became critically ill. My beloved mother, Simone Madar, may she rest in peace, passed away January 8, 2012. She would tell me upon visiting her at Mount Sinai in the last months of her life to pursue this great task I had taken on. She would literally say, Arlene, you go now. I know you have a commitment to fulfill, and this gala must get done. It was a very hard moment for me. I was devastated. I was torn between the last moments I wanted to spend with my mom and the obligation I had to carry on. I proceeded with the continuation of the gala. The gala took place May 2nd, 2012. It turned out to be a great success for the attendance we had, for the dollars we raised, the outreach we did, and OMETS became visible now and relied now really more visible and relied on great prospects that would provide more to children requiring special therapies and services. For those of you who don't know, A Chance to Shine has now become an annual fundraiser on the community calendar. I dedicated this evening to my mom. So, suffering through my pain helped me build courage and perseverance. I say we choose the value by which we live and choose to base our actions on. This is how we can measure our life. So here's another situation where I had to act with responsibility. 2 years later, in 2014, I became the co-chair of the general campaign of Federation CJA. I was scheduled to attend a mega mission, but I had to decline because my daughter Judith, my eldest child, was expecting her first child. And by no means did I want to miss this. So I put that aside. I was not happy about it, but I put it aside. But a few months later, Israel launched Opération Protective Edge, a military operation on July 2014 in the Hamas-ruled Gaza Strip. Israel was to stop unprovoked rocket fires from Gaza into Israel. It was a very serious conflict. So I get a phone call from Federation CJA telling me I basically had to go to Israel. And I said, why now? Well, they said Montreal had organized, like other North American communities, a special mission to show solidarity to Israel. It was not exactly the most desired time to fly to Israel under these troubling circumstances. I did not think long. I recognized the urgency, and my sense of duty took over, and I said, I'm going. This was no small undertaking for me. For those who know me, my family comes first, and by no means that I want to put myself at risk. But I said to myself, Arlene, you took a responsibility, you accepted the role of campaign chair, well, you gotta go. And I did. So what I witnessed there, and then I will always remember. But the feeling and gratitude from the Israelis we met was my biggest reward. They were so appreciative and thankful of the solidarity of the Montreal CJA delegation expressed to them. They felt they were not alone, the diaspora had come to support them. Learning to do more and seeing the result gives you confidence to move forward. With it comes the reward of gratitude. My friend, look around and see who needs you. The more we choose to accept responsibility in our lives, the more power we will exercise in our own lives. The choice of value is empowering. Responsibility is a condition of being responsible. It is to become more. So I'm going to quote Albert Einstein because I love quoting these people. And this is what he says. It is one's obligation to put back in the world at least the equivalent of what we take of it. We then become our highest and largest self. The ultimate purpose reveals itself. One can be responsible to oneself, to others, to society. To act with responsibility is to decentralize oneself, to have honesty, empathy, compassion, and exercise equality in order to preserve human dignity. It is also showing respect and accountability. Our present society lives in existentialism and a spiritual crisis. Like other Jews, I am on a mission. To be Jewish means to have a Jewish heart. To do good. This is how we honor and perpetuate the concept of Tikkun Olam. For those who don't know, it's to repair the world. Jews are sensitive to each other's sensitivity. What makes us conscientious is the responsibility we have one to the other. We are the appointed ones that have the mandate to take proper action to heal and repair. Being Jewish means social justice. This awareness of social justice creates in the human being the electricity that can light the world. Moral energy is at the core of Jewish life. Judaism has a balance of individual and collective responsibility. In fact, it is both. The Jewish people discovered a long time ago this set of truths about the human condition. We have the duty to be the moral compass of the world. Helping the poor, fighting justice for the oppressed, and rescuing Jews from foreign lands has always been on our agenda. The most unaffiliated Jew feels a strong sense of responsibility to the other, as we can attest to whenever Israel or any other community is under threat. We are all concerned and worried about the explosion of anti-Semitism around the world, right? We are bewildered when often the Holocaust is denied as having really never taken place. We rise to the exploding anti-Semitism around the world, with one same voice. We have the responsibility to remind the world that Israel belongs to us. I always said there is an invisible thread that binds us together and makes us care and act like we do. At Rosh Hashanah, when our rabbi blew the shofar, I prayed for the well-being of my loved ones, but as well for the sake of humanity, even more in these challenging times. At Sukkot, we fulfilled the commandment and performed the mitzvah of sitting in a sukkah. We sit in a sukkah to retain the historical link with our ancestors so that future generations remember how Jews lived in booths when God took us out of Egypt. This is responsibility. Harmony in one's life is created by human relationships that one can develop and draw from them. It is by extending oneself to the other that we all become better. You are sensitive to the human condition, and your moral conscience gives you the obligation to repair. So I'm coming to my end, and I'm going to tell you now that my community experiences were and are still the most rewarding. I learned to build on existing skills, was empowered by others to take on leadership roles, not fearing to do more. I became a fundraiser. I never knew I had that in me. When canvassing or asking for a contribution for the many galas I chaired and co-chair, I always naturally replied to the donor, "You're not giving to me, but to someone you and I do not know, but needs us somewhere, somehow." Be happy to know that you will have made a difference in someone's life. To make a difference, one stands up for the other. This is a call to responsibility. Taking on leadership roles for our community and for Israel required my sense of responsibility, provided me a sense of purpose, and in turn gave me balance. I have learned and grown in many ways. I feel proud as well to have instilled confidence progressively in others, so that they in turn allowed their heart to speak. So as I mature and advance in my life, my responsibility now is to leave a legacy to my children and to my grandchildren, and impose the tradition of perpetuating the values that guided me. My aspiration is to secure the next generation, impact them by my actions, set an example, and hope that my actions are respected, and in turn will inspire them to do so with pride and with love. I encourage them to get involved in what they believe, no matter how much they can give of their time. That while volunteering may seem overwhelming, when you give of yourself, you truly give. Be who they are and for what they stand for. Preserving our values in Judaism and support to Israel is preserving our civilizations for generations to come. Preserving and passing on the merits and the outcome to live by its value system. So whether you perform a mitzvah, you commit to tzedakah, you react to responsibility, and you honor our Jewish values. This is precisely how I fulfilled my own sense of responsibility. Do for the present with awareness of the past for a better future. Act in response of what you feel. That is how one can make a difference. And my last quote today will be one of Shakespeare, and I will leave you with something very interesting. He said, "To be or not to be," right? Who doesn't know what to be or not to be is? So what do I answer to that? I say, do all the good you can, by all the means you can, wherever and whenever, at all the times you can, and as long as you ever can. Happiness comes from when you have found to serve. I thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.
Wow, you brought the words out of our hearts. We all feel this sense of urgency, and we never get a chance to hear it so eloquently and with so much urgency and heart. Thank you, Arlene. You know, some people, they like to be right no matter what. It's not good to be that way. But today, I think that I was right when they told me, okay, choose somebody, you know, for each topic. And I said, responsibility. Arlene Madar. And now I know I was right. Thank you so much. If I can just add one little thing before we go to our beautiful next panelist.
Press here and turn the page.
Here, Rabbi Sachs, he says.
Great, now press the yellow dot again.
Can we mute ourselves? Here is Rabbi Sachs in this unit of 10 Past saying, and I just thought to share it with you because I'm from Iran and this really resonates for me. When Esther's words were reported to Mordechai, he sent back this answer. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will come from somewhere else. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows, but you have come to royal position for such a time as this. So Arlene's message was to grab the opportunity. And what I take away, one of the pearls that I take away from your talk today is, and it's such a beautiful notion. You say, every time you have a human being in front of you, you have an opportunity for kindness. And now I know really, really, really who you are, because I always wondered, what's this magic that she has? It's so uplifting. And now I know. Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you very much, Sandra.
So our next amazing speaker is Alice Becker-Lehrer. She's from the Sha'ar HaShamayim. She's a group leader for 10 Paths to God, and I'm so eager to hear what she has to say because she's been doing this on her side, and we've had a wonderful experience all year, and I want to see what her perspective is. And so for all of you, if anyone wants to know a little bit about Alice, here is I mean, I want you to say what you have in your bio because you didn't send one to me, and because you're probably one of those people who just want to get on with it and do good. I know people like that, and here's one in front of us. So Alice Becker-Lehrer, Master in Jewish Studies, 10 Paths to God study group leader, author of If We Could Hear Them Now, Encounters with Legendary Jewish Heroines, teacher at Federation CJA, Weizmann Institute, community volunteer for 50 plus years, presently board member and volunteer at Hope and Cope. Alice, please take the floor, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you. Thank you for introducing me. And thank you, Sandra, for your perfect organizational skills in creating this very special series for the Spanish and Portuguese and synagogue and for the community at large. And with great pleasure, I also thank my dear friend Arlene, with whom my family and I have shared so many wonderful and warm years of friendship. And what greater joy than to see our children and grandchildren enjoying the same joys of friendship. thank you, Arlene, for inviting me to share this very meaningful podium with you. I admire all the ways in which you have contributed to Montreal's Jewish community, as well as outside of Canada, and in particular in Israel. Thank you for all that you do. So Rabbi Sachs embodied the very notion of universal responsibility, and in particular, Jewish responsibility. If we examine his life and his works, we see this throughout. But first, on a personal note, when he was chief rabbi of the Commonwealth, he came to Shar HaShamayim synagogue as a speaker. Almost amidst a large entourage accompanying him to the hall where he was to speak, I was able to approach him. Our daughter was studying in London at the time. I introduced myself and said, Rabbi Sachs, our daughter is living in London. And you can guess what I said next, which was, perhaps you know a nice Jewish boy for her to meet. He stopped everyone, took me aside, and spoke to me, giving me ideas where she may go on Shabbat and in other places, other times. On a return visit to speak again at Shar HaShamayim a couple of years later, our daughter had indeed met a nice Jewish boy who actually had been part of Rabbi Sachs' study group for young adults. Again, I approached the rabbi and he recognized me. Rabbi, I said, she met, and I told him the young man's name, and he smiled broadly. And I went on, why didn't you tell me about him? So Rabbi Sachs put his hand on my arm and said in a gentle voice, Alice, God works on his timetable, not a mother's. That nice Jewish boy did indeed become our son-in-law, a happy story. And as we all know, to Rabbi Sachs, Jewish continuity, Jewish second and third generations that we create was to him and is for us of utmost importance. And when I sent him the manuscript for my book, he actually wrote a very meaningful approbation that is on the back cover, for which I'm very grateful. Rabbi Sachs was a brilliant jewel, a diamond in the crown of Judaism. In his brilliance and the many facets of his intellect, he caught the light of our heritage and reflected that light onto us, the light of our most precious sages and core values. He made them accessible to all and easy to understand by all. In one facet, Rabbi Sachs was intricately connected to Jewish mystical notions, that we are all endowed with attributes, the sefirot, that are divine. What makes us each unique is how these attributes are evident in our personalities. Attributes such as hesed, strength, gevura, harmony, etc. What Rabbi Sachs does in the 10th path to God is emphasize that as we grow as humans, we must use these attributes to better ourselves, our relationships, and our community. This becomes the primary purpose and responsibility of our lives. We are all responsible for tipping the balance of the world toward peace, towards good, and thus godliness. To emulate God is to live by living the Torah, the Tanakh, and even the gift of Jewish history. It is the purpose of life, and we have the freedom to do so. Anything short of this, he says, is to squander our God-given gifts. And so a life with purpose becomes a life with responsibility. In one essay of Rabbi Sachs, titled 7 Principles of Jewish Leadership, he writes, quote, leadership begins with taking responsibility, end of quote. He contrasts Genesis' failures of responsibility, that is in Adam, Cain, and Noah, with Exodus, where Moses Miriam and Aaron, step up to a task greater than themselves. Rabbi Sachs writes, and I quote, "At the heart of Judaism are three beliefs about leadership. One, we are free. Two, we are responsible. And three, together we can change the world." End of quote. I would say that these are beliefs about not only leaders, but about ourselves at any moment as we navigate the vicissitudes of life. The Talmud expounds on the notion of responsibility on a full page in Brachot. The rabbis therein give us midrashic stories to illustrate the crucial role that taking responsibility can have in changing the course of history. The stories revolve around the dialogue between God and Moses. The rabbis imagine these stories of Moses and God's interaction after the sin of the golden calf. Quote, "After the golden calf, God is angry. God tells Moses, quote, 'Go descend from your greatness. Isn't it only for the sake of Israel that I granted you prominence? And now that Israel has sinned, why do I need you?' End of quote. And the rabbis write, Moses' strength waned and he was powerless to speak. And then God said to Moses, 'Leave me be, that I may destroy them,' in Deuteronomy. Moses said to himself, 'This matter is dependent on me.' Immediately, Moses stood and was strengthened in prayer and asked that God have mercy on the nation of Israel and forgive them for their transgression." End of quote. That is, Moses witnessed what could have been a dire end to the Jewish people, and the rabbis see him as literally rising to the occasion. The Talmud goes on with another story. In an additional aspect, quote, "In an additional aspect of the sin of the golden calf, God told Moses, 'Now leave me be, that my wrath will be enraged against them all, and I will consume them. And I will make of you, Moses, a great nation.' Leave me be teaches that Moses grabbed the Holy One, blessed be he, as a person grabs his friend by his garment would. And he said before him, 'Master of the universe, I will not leave you be until you forgive and pardon them.' This image of the intimacy and trust in Moses' relationship with God, that he can grab God and not let him go, is truly beautiful. Just as we would with a person that we are so close to, that we can hold on to and say, 'Don't go until you forgive me.' It is one of my favorite stories in rabbinic lore. And then the rabbis recount Moses further contending with God for the sake of the Jewish people. Moses says to God, and I quote from the rabbis, "But I've already told the Jewish people of your promise to the forefathers. Now what do I say to them?" God succumbs to Moses' plea and responds, as the rabbis say, "Salachti kidvarecha," I have forgiven according to your word. The sages of the school of Rabbi Ishmael taught, according to your word it will be, as indeed in the future the nations of the world will say this. And so it is that this is what we say on Yom Kippur to this day, as we step up and plead for forgiveness on all our behalves, and the miracle of Jewish survival is evidence that God has indeed forgiven. And so, Uvachain, we see that the rabbis set up Moses as a definitive Jew and all mankind as one whose life is full of challenges, and yet with awareness comes the duty of responsibility. Even after the most disastrous events staged by the nascent Jewish nation, there is the need to overcome, reset, attain a higher level of responsibility for Judaism to go on. These rabbinic interpretations must also and most certainly evoke in us another story in our Jewish history in Tanakh. Do they not trigger our memory of the heroine Esther? And this is what Sandra was just talking about, Esther seemed unaware of her destiny in the palace of Shushan. When her people are threatened with destruction, she is made aware of their dire situation by Mordecai. At first paralyzed by fear that she could do nothing, she then has her aha moment. In the matter of a rega, the blink of an eye, she realizes that she must try. She pivots in her mindset, and the text says, uvachein, and so. She feels the responsibility from her position as queen and moves out of her comfort zone. Thus we get the wonderful phrase, uvachein, and so. And so is when Esther conceives her plan and transforms into a genuine heroine, planning her steps to approach the king. And on Yom Kippur, again, we may recall that uvachein is used in much of the liturgy of the day. It is a not so gentle reminder of the Esther story that we too can gather our strength and go before the king on high and become transformers towards greater responsibility in our own lives. The compelling point of all these stories and what Rabbi Sachs tells us is that we too may all be only a rega, a blink of an eye, away from an aha moment, great or small, within our community or within our relationships, and certainly in our families. As Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik wrote, God may decide our fate, but we determine our destiny. These stories create the paradigm for humanity that the partner of awareness is indeed responsibility. In Unit 10, Rabbi Sachs affirms that, quote, in terms of numbers, we the Jewish people are small. And here I'm going to quote from the short movie we saw before, but I'll repeat it. He says, but in terms of our contribution, we are vast. In almost every age, Jews have given something special to the world. And he lists all these wonderful things that Jews have done for the world. He affirms that to be a Jew is to be asked to give, to contribute, and to make a difference. And I quote from him, continuing, to make the world a home for the divine presence, a place of justice, compassion, human dignity, and the sanctity of life. Precisely because we are so small a people, he says, every one of us counts. You need not numbers, but a sense of responsibility. Judaism is God's call to responsibility. Rabbi Sachs reminds us that we must hear it and absorb it, that the notion of our chosenness is steeped in the call to responsibility. This part of chosenness, that is the responsibility part, seems to have been difficult to convey across the millennia to the world, and I might add even to some of our fellow Jews. In this, he echoes Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who speaks to us of a moral grandeur and a spiritual audacity. That is, to live each moment aware of our gifts, our freedom, and our responsibility, and at the same time uphold the highest of moral and ethical values. In the next to final chapter of Pirkei Avot, the Mishnah says that 5 possessions has the Holy Blessed One made especially his own in his world, and Abraham is one possession. We may guess at why Abraham, but the answer lies in Abraham's sense of responsibility. He doesn't keep his enlightened spirituality to himself. He spreads it to those around him and creates a new world order for all mankind, thereby taking responsibility for that of which he is now aware. And for this, God says of him in Bereshit, for I have loved him because he commands his children and his household after him, that they keep the way of Hashem, doing righteousness and justice. We all know that there have been, there are, and there will be countless heroes and heroines in the world and in the Jewish world. We are called upon to think of ourselves as one as well, even in the smallest way. Even in the minutiae of our lives, we tip the balance towards good. Rabbi Sachs also echoes the great principle in Talmud, Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Lezeh. All Israel are responsible for one another. And he echoes Maimonides in Mishnah Torah, that the righteous person is the foundation of the world, namely that by any act of righteousness, we influence the fate of and save the world. And he refreshes the words of the Talmudic sage, Rabbi Tarfon, who said, "Neither are you free to stand aside from the task." Thank you.
Very beautiful.
Beautiful.
That was again, it was the cherry on top. Thank you so much, Alice, for gracing our panel tonight. It was such a pleasure to meet you, and I heard so much about you from Arlene, and it was amazing to listen to you, even though I've been reading your blogs and enjoying. It's like it takes me into a meditative state, and I thank you for that. So if anybody has questions, please, there's a tool where you can raise your hand, and if you have any questions for our panelists, it would be nice to direct them right now. And if there are no questions, I can fully understand, because they put us both in such a meditative mood that we just want to relish and taste the flavor of the thoughts that we've been offered. I know for myself, that's what I want to do, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now. I have from Galit Suissa to everybody. Thank you, dear Arlene, for sharing your philanthropy experience and your wisdom with us. As you quoted Golda Meir, women have room at the table. And you, Arlene, definitely sit on all the leadership tables, voicing your love for Israel, for our community, and for the many important causes. I'm honored to call you my friend and my inspiring mentor. Amen.
Well, if I can answer to that, I'm going to say, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm going to say thank you very much to Galit, but as I mentioned before to everyone, this didn't come just like that, you know. Taking on responsibility is something you feel inside very deeply. It's you wanting to give back. That's how it starts. When you start wanting to give back and feeling blessed about what you have and living in equality when we know this world is not equal at all, we try to take a responsibility because we say we're going to try to make making it a little better. But working my way through community, I really had to get out of my comfort zone. It was not easy. It was not something that came naturally to me, but the sense of responsibility took over everything. And I want to stress, that's how I got there. You know, it starts with your emotional intelligence. You're thinking, I want to make things better. You know, you're aware that there are all kinds of situations in this world and you can't help them all, even though I'm going to try to help anyone I can on the street or anywhere else, but I realize I cannot. So where I could manage and channel my energy, I did, and that was in community. And thank you, Galit, for this comment. It's very well appreciated.
I have a comment. I was inspired by my daughter a few weeks ago. We were talking about responsibility, and she offered a very bright insight, because I made a painting for our grandchild, Arlene, and my grandchild, And here it is. It was on the cover of the Arlene Bulletin. This is Miriam calling everybody to dance with her and play on the timbrel, because they had just crossed the sea and they were they overcame. They were going to be annihilated, but a miracle happened and the truth took over the facts of life. So she mentioned, and look how brilliant it is. Here is Moses pleading with God. He took responsibility. He wasn't thinking of himself only. He was thinking of his people who he had just worked so hard for. There's a saying that says, the more you do for somebody, the more you love them. And so she says, look at this little girl, Miriam, because that's the middle name of our granddaughter. She says, well, Rabbi Sachs also says, the way he said it was beautiful. He says, she had the enterprising spirit to take her little brother and put him in safe hands. And then not only that, to go and tell the Pharaoh's daughter that I know somebody who can nurse the child. And this was a way for the child to grow up, at least knowing where he's from, knowing his identity, knowing that he is a Hebrew. And so Rabbi Sachs says in one of his parashas that, look at this leadership team, the greatest one the Jews ever had. Moses, the prophet, Aaron, the priest, and Miriam, he says, probably the greatest of them all, because what she did as a little child, like I even remember reading that when Pharaoh said all the firstborn are to be killed, and from now on, like there was real genocide, her parents decided to separate, to get divorced so that they won't procreate anymore. They were afraid, they were gripped by fear. But here's this child who told them, you are more Nazi than the Pharaoh. You are even more genocidal than the Pharaoh, because you don't want to contribute to the continuity. So she forced her parents to become responsible. And like Rabbi Sachs says, to continue contribute to the continuity of the Jewish people. So I just want to say that Judaism has so much, and if we can only listen to the voices of those Jews who look deep inside themselves, like Alice, like Arlene, who says that, when you have to care about Israel, you have to care about your fellow Jews. Even Rabbi Sachs says, if we are living at a time, we never had it so good. We have a Jewish state. We're free elsewhere. Look at us. We're joining here on Zoom openly. Nobody's coming after us for doing so. And yet 2 out of 3 Jews are walking away from Judaism. And this is wrong. We have to take responsibility. We have to stand up for who we are. And if, like Arlene says, her first priority is to pass it on to her children and grandchildren, because they are the future and we're responsible for them. And if we do that, then we're doing the best thing that we ever could. And if only all of us Jews would be kind to each other, that would be. So if I can just say thank you, Rabbi Pinto. I hope you're watching this recording. Thank you for giving me a chance to partner with you. It's been a beautiful journey. To everybody, I want to thank you for being there, to our beautiful panelists all throughout this journey, 1 through 10. God bless you. Thank you for what you've given us, because we have all your precious recordings, which I encourage everybody to consult on the Spanish and Portuguese website. The recordings will all be there. I will send it to my friends too. And Edmond, would you offer us some parting words?
Well, I think the sentence that comes to my mind is Kol Israel Arevim Ze Baze. Every Jew is responsible of other ones. And our responsibility doesn't only toward our fellow Jews, but also toward humanity, toward
Yes.
the Klal Israel, toward our Israel. And we have always to remember that question that come back in the Parashat Bereshit: where are you? Where are you, human being? Adam, where are you, Cain? Where are you, fellow Jew? Today, what are you doing for your community? What are you doing for your collectivity? And this is what, this question we always have to keep it in our mind. Where are you today? And how are you going to improve your surrounding, your family, your friend, your country, and so on?
Absolutely. That was our past president, our wonderful Edmond Elbaz. And by the way, I was asked to co-chair a concert that will be dedicated in honor of him for all that he has done to bring us all together and to make of the Spanish what it is today. And it'll be on March, I think it's 27th, a big classical concert with Boris Brott, Maestro Boris Brott, and the Orchestre Classique de Montréal. So everybody watch out for that. Watch out for our recordings. And here's another beautiful thing that I would love to share with you. It's in the chat from Muriel Suissat to all of us. Muriel is our Chazanit. She's always at the heart of all the beautiful things, all the beautiful food that we enjoy at our gatherings. She's the general behind it all, who gently elbows everybody to do their part. And it always turns out to be a beautiful event. So Muriel is telling us, a quote from Oprah Winfrey comes to mind after listening to Alice and Arlene's messages. The world's most prominent women leaders show the importance of honesty, courage, impact, and decisive action in leadership. Mazal tov to everyone involved, and thank you for everything you do to enrich our lives.
Very nice.
Amen to that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was our pleasure to do it.
Bravo,
Right,
Arlene. Bravo. Bravo, Alice.
Thank you.
Beautiful presentation.
Thank you.
Very inspiring. And we hope to have you again for another interesting talk.
Thank you.
By the
Amen
way,
to
I
that.
just want to mention that I'm not a rabbi,
No.
although
But we want to thank you for filling in tonight. And Sandra, you had a lot on your plate tonight. And as usual, you managed very well. We were just a guest speakers, so we weren't prepared to really do more than we did, because we involved Alice and I quite a bit in our preparation ahead. But you picked up the evening very well, Sandra. Thank you. And Mo, thank you for coming in as well.
Thank you, everybody.
I just wanted to say that my presentation was just off the cuff when I started, because I didn't prepare anything at all. I was just leaving an executive committee meeting with all the questions and the arguments that took place. And suddenly,
And once
Madar
again, I
promised
was
we're going
right.
to-
Yeah.
we're going to
Once
meet.
again, I
doing it.
was right.
So,
Because
Fine.
whenever you ask anything from Edmund, he's a deep soul, so he has a lot to give. So you don't need to prepare anything. You're a natural.
Thank you.
My dear friends, I just wanted to say a very quick
Oh.
word. I don't know.
Here
I-
he is. Yes. Come on in.
Yeah,
We
hold
don't
on.
see your face.
Oh, yeah, I know. Hold on a second. Here you go. I just got home from a wedding. I just took off my suit, and I heard Muriel on the phone listening to all of you. And I just want to say that she was telling me how wonderful the whole talk was. I'm going to watch the recording. And I
Thank
just
you.
want to say that I'm very proud of the Spanish and Portuguese Synagogue for putting this together. And I want to thank both speakers and Sandra and Rabbi and then the president and everybody that's involved. Very proud to be part of the Spanish and Portuguese. And at the wedding today, everybody was talking to me about, after singing, everybody was talking to me about the Spanish and how they're hearing it all over the news and all that. So God bless us. And let's continue to do our great work. Amen. Amen.
We are inspired by our leaders and our clergy to do
Amen.
things. You give us the freedom to exploit our wish, our talents, and thank you. And thank you, everybody. And Françoise, we'll let everyone go.
I want to say one
we
thing.
have our president. We have
Oh,
our president, Charles.
Sure.
Please, how silly of me not to remember. Please, the floor is yours. You and our first lady, my good
I just want to
friend.
say, I just want to tell you, it was an amazing lecture. I was really impressed, and thank you so much. And I learned a lot about you, Arlene. It was really very impressive, very, very impressive. You're a great speaker, by the way,
well,
a natural.
I thank you very much. But when Sandra asked me to speak, I said, by no means can I talk about anything related to the Bible, because unfortunately, I didn't get any of the Jewish studies. As I said, my parents were busy with our family here in France. There was no way we can get anything Jewish except from my parents. My brothers got lucky. They got to get to Jewish school. I didn't. But then I thought of my friend Alice. I said, she's going to save me because she's going to do the part I cannot do. But honestly, I spoke from the heart. And when I had to think of responsibility, the thing that
You wanted to hide behind Alice.
yeah, exactly. Because I knew she was going to deliver with the wisdom. I only have experience. She has the wisdom. I really
But
mean it.
Just a good team.
I want to thank Alice from the bottom of my heart,
Just a
because
good team.
this is not an easy topic, because you
No,
have
it isn't. I have to say.
something good. But what she chose was that moment between Moses and his best friend, the master of the universe. And that is responsibility. He was challenging God. And I even remember Rabbi Friedman say that he wanted to die in Mount Sinai and not go, because at the time of the redemption, when the Messiah comes, those who have a share in the world to come, this is our faith telling us, they are the ones who were steadfast to Judaism. But he wanted to be there so that his neshama can carry those who stayed behind, those who had to die within those 40 years because they listened to the spy. He was so humble and loyal to his people that he said, no, I will stay behind so that with me they will also come. How much more responsible can you be? So I want to thank you, Alice, for your soft voice and your beautiful speech.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was really
Thank you,
amazing.
everyone.
Thank you.
So look out for our
Thank you.
recordings. And one last thing, next month, October 25, we're going to do the yahrzeit of Rabbi Sachs with Andy Rothschild, our wonderful Torah scholar. You don't want to miss it. Andy has calibrated the time and the date to the hour that Rabbi Sachs passed away.
Amazing, amazing.
It's going to be
Great.
too special to miss. So God bless you. And
Thank you very much.
You can
Just
stop
Bye.
the recording.
Sandra,
can I
Bye-bye.
say one?
I just want to take this opportunity to tell you how precious you are to our congregation, for your
God bless.
contribution, for your help, for your assistance, for being you. Each time we need help in the synagogue, we turn to Sandra and she
So-
says, Hineni. She never says, I'm busy or for an excuse. Her answer is Hineni. What
That's
can I do?
responsibility.
Tell me what-
That's
yeah,
responsibility.
exactly. That's
Wait,
exactly the definition of
God bless you.
responsibility is when you answer Hineni. I'm here.
But you know, we have good leaders. Every time I asked you, can we do a concert? Can we do this? You listened. And no matter what the obstacles, you made it happen. And look what you made of our synagogue. It's amazing.
It was
Madar-Abitan wants to share a few words. Henri he's such a kind man. I mean, like, he reminds me of my father. And you know what? God bless you for being such a good supporter and cheerleader of your wife. God bless you. And please don't stop.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you.
first of all, I don't know if you hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear
Okay,
you
first
very
of all, I want to say, Cherie, you made a fantastic statement, which I knew you would do, but I'm even more impressed about what you do, because I think you said just part of your responsibility that you have accomplished till now. The biggest responsibility that you have and you're achieving every day is the one to our family, to myself, and to our entourage and to our friends. And after all that, obviously to the community that you love as your second family. But you first have a family and you're doing amazing things for our family. So I love you. I thank you. I think you're amazing. I think you're continuing to do from better to better achievements. And I'm really proud of you. I want to thank my dear friend, our dear friend, Alice, for joining Arlene, because you were a compliment that you couldn't find better. Okay. We're
Absolutely.
old friends and old skiers together, but you know, your wisdom, we have a lot to hear from you and to learn from you. And thank you for your statement. Was pretty amazing. Sandra, I don't have any words for you because you talk enough that I can tell you that I just think you're amazing. Okay. And you're saying so many things, that you have so much wisdom. And you have so much wisdom, and you have so many statesmen, and you're so helpful to the congregation, to the synagogue, that you're just an unbelievable pillar. So I thank you on the name of the congregation of this Spanish and Portuguese.
Thank you so much, Henri. And
Henri, I have one question for you.
thank you for all your kindness.
Henri, I have a question for you. Did you buy your pass? Did you buy your ski pass yet?
No, after I see you, I gotta talk to you about that. Okay. Edmond, thank you very much for assisting everybody, and thank you
You're
for
very welcome.
everyone
Henri.
listening to Arlene and Alice. It was a wonderful experience and a wonderful night. You should have more like that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We're very, very proud to have you guys in our part of our family and our congregation.
God bless you.
Thank you, everybody.
You're very
Goodbye.
special.
See you soon.
Take care, everybody.